Josh in San Diego.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. First of all, let me just say, you guys are doing a great show. But
Thank you.
I'm a little nervous. I actually have two questions for you guys. The first one is actually more a matter of advice. My mother, since I've come out as an atheist, my mother continues to still tell people that I believe in God, and I really find it insulting, and I'm not exactly sure how to deal with this.
Why don't you go around telling people she doesn't believe in God?
Yeah.
That was actually one of the ideas that I had.
Yeah. And yeah, let her see how that feels.
Yeah. Well, based on her logic, I must believe in God because someone raised the way I am couldn't not believe in God.
You know, denial is a wonderful thing sometimes
Yes.
for people.
You can't make people stop being jerks. You can just limit your contact with them. And you can tell them that you don't like it and you find it insulting and you wish they would stop, but you can't actually make them stop.
Right.
So, yeah.
I was going to move on to my second point real quick, because that first one was just kind of a quick thing.
Sure.
Okay.
My second point is, now I'm in the military, and as an atheist, I'm forced to sit through many military ceremonies that start off being led with a public prayer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is your guys' take on that?
Jen's in the military. I'm going to let her take this one. Or was.
Yeah,
I
I retired after 26 years in the Army. So, yeah, I feel your pain. Basically, these ceremonial prayers, they were not a traditional part of the ceremonies. If you look at, what branch of the military are you in?
Navy.
Okay. So, well, the Navy may have some different traditions. I know in the Army, all of our drill and ceremonies is covered by a field manual called FM 22-5. And if you look at FM 22-5, it doesn't have any place in there for prayers as part of ceremonies. It was not a traditional part of the military ceremony. What happened was, about 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, the evangelicals began to infest the military, and they started inserting prayers whenever they could. And this is actually covered under this idea of ceremonial deism. So the idea is that it's just a ceremonial thing. It's not actually a prayer, which is, of course, nonsense. It actually is a prayer.
Right.
And therefore, you should have to put up with it. I don't think that's right. I think that we should go back to the traditional way these ceremonies were conducted and to omit the prayers. And if you want to pray before a ceremony, you can pray before the ceremony. You can get together with like-minded people and pray after the ceremony. But during the ceremony, when you're required to stand there in formation, you should not be subjected to a religious activity that you don't necessarily agree with.
Right, and with no choice to even opt out of it.
Right. And so that's the issue. You've got military people being forced to participate in a religious event when that's not what you signed up for. That's not why you're there.
Right,
and you don't have a choice.
Go to church.
Yeah. So, I don't know what to tell you other than you can contact the Military Religious Freedom Foundation and see if they can help you out.
Also, the Military Association of Atheists and Free Thinkers,
Yes.
which is at militaryatheists.org.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and I actually just wanted your guys' opinion on that, because I feel like that's one area that the wall of church and state is continuously violated and doesn't get addressed.
Yeah, and see, to me, it's a similar situation as being in a public school. The rules are pretty strict about public schools. It basically says that a teacher can't walk in and lead a class in prayer,
Right.
because, and the reason for that is because that's an unusually coercive environment. You have a teacher who has pretty broad authority over children in a classroom. And you have the same situation going on in the military, where you have senior officers and NCOs who have very broad authority over a large group of people, and they're going in and forcing them to participate in a religious activity. So I think, that is the very definition of an unusually coercive environment.
Right.
So
And I don't think the option to opt out of the ceremony would be the right option either, because
no.
it's still going on and being publicly endorsed.
Right, the ceremony itself. The ceremony itself is a legitimate military activity. It's the addition of the prayers that
Right.
are not legitimate military activities.
Right, and many of the Christians I know, they won't come out and say it, but their position is essentially, I'm against government endorsement of religion unless it's my religion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Right. This reminds me, when you're talking about unusually coercive situations, I used to take Taekwondo classes a few years ago, and there was this situation where the instructor, on the belt testing day, when all the students had to be there, brought in a guy who was pitching a multi-level marketing scheme. And in that situation, it was a private organization, and I was voluntarily associated with it, and that was eventually a factor in my deciding to quit. But in
Right.
your situation, it's different because you're in the military, and just walking out is complicated.
Yeah, it's
And-
basically not an option, depending where you are.
Right. And they're the ones who are out of place. So just like when people push school prayer on kids, which we also don't approve of, this is a situation where you ought to figure out what your leverage is to push back against these people interfering with public institutions that they have no business in.
Right. Okay, well, it was real good to call in for the first time. I've been watching for quite a while.
right.
I'll go ahead and get off the line now, though.
Okay,
All right.
thanks for calling,
Thanks,
and
Josh.
best of luck to you.
All right, thank you. You guys have a great one.
You too.
All right, bye.